Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and the purpose of this video is to discuss pushing code to a remote repository. Okay, so just to recap, if I were to create like a new folder here, so I'm just going to call this test. Okay, I can open up this folder in my terminal, and I can create a local Git repository using the command git init. This initializes a new Git repository. I know that Git repository exists in this folder because if I do the command ls-la, which shows me all files and folders in a Unix system, so bash on a Mac or Linux machine, probably a different command for Windows, but it'll show me all the stuff, and I'll see that there's now a .git folder in there. So that means this folder is a repository locally, and this is where I can locally make git commits and all this stuff. So what I'll do is I'll just touch a readme.md. So I'm making a readme.md file. So I'll see here now there's a readme.md file. Okay, so now when I see in Visual Studio Code, I see that it's green. It's because it's not yet committed to that local repository. Okay, and I'll just write inside of it, this is a test. And I have autosave on, so it's saving it. Okay, so then if I do git status, it'll show me the status of this repository. So right now I only have one file in this repository, readme.md, which is red because I haven't added it to staging. I haven't said, hey, I think I might want to commit this file in the future. I can do that by just typing git add readme.md, and now I've added it to staging. I haven't committed it to my project's history yet, but the idea is I'm saying I tentatively want to. So now if I do git status, okay, readme.md, okay, now it's staged to be committed. So to commit it, I type in git commit -m, which means I want to put a message and say, hey, first commit. Cool. So I've now made a commit. This is like a snapshot. In the future, if I need to, for some reason I do something incredibly wrong, I can always go back to one of my snapshots. Okay, but you always want to make sure there's a confirmation. Okay, so if you don't get this commit number, then it didn't commit. So always read the errors to make sure that it, if there's an error, you resolve it. Don't assume that it committed just because you did the command. So now I can see this commit in my git log, which is a log of all my commits. Okay, so there's just that one commit. Okay. Cool. But what if I want to push this code somewhere online? Because it's always nice to back up your code. There's several places that have online repositories, remote repositories. Okay, I have accounts with many of them. So here I have my GitHub account, my GitLab account, and my Bitbucket account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this code to all three of them. Okay, so you can see that it doesn't really matter where you're pushing the code. You can have as many remotes as you want. So first I'll do, okay, here. So I'm going to go to GitHub. I create a new repository. I'm going to say testing remotes, we'll call it. Okay. Remote for video lesson. And I'm going to initialize this without a readme, without a .git ignore. You only do this if you actually haven't made your project yet. You would do this, and then you would clone it back down to your computer. But since I already have something on my computer that I'm planning to push up, I'm just going to leave all this blank. I'm going to hit create repository, and it's going to take me to this next screen. And this gives me the URL. This URL allows me to connect my local repository to this remote repository. So I'm going to take this URL, go back to my terminal, and the command I'm going to pass in is git remote, because I'm connecting a remote. I'm going to add a remote, so git remote add. Then I have to give that remote a name. Typically, your main remote, you give the name origin. Okay, so you'll see a lot of people say origin, push origin master. Okay, that's very typical. For this exercise, I'm going to use the name of where I'm having that repository. So I'm going to say git add github, and then you paste that URL. Okay, cool. So now I should be able to see that remote. When I type git remote, it lists my remote. So see, now I have a remote called GitHub. So if I push to that remote, it'll push that code to that place. So now if I type in git push github master, because I'm pushing the master branch, I'm not going to get the branches for this video. See, it pushes the code up. So now when I refresh here, see, I see the code. Okay, it got pushed up. Now let's do the same thing on GitLab. So I'm going to create a new project. Testing remotes. Okay, I don't, well, that's fine with me. Create project. Okay, let's see what the URL is. Here's all the stuff. So this must be the URL right here. So I just want to get the URL. So HTTP is gitlab, Alex Merced, testing remotes. Good. Control C. Now I'm going to go back over here and just add another remote. So git remote add. This time it's gitlab. So I'm going to put in gitlab. Again, the name doesn't matter. You can call it whatever you want. I can call it cheese for all I care. Then I put the URL. And now when I type in git remote, I have 2 remotes. Git push. Now I push gitlab master. Yep. Did I push enter? Gitlab. Enter. Escape. Oh, I see. It wants me to put my password because I don't have SSH set up. That's right. GitLab master. So I need to put in my username, which I think is Alex Merced. I should put it Alex Merced, or is it Alex Merced 1? I think it's Alex Merced 1. No, it is. Alex Merced. Don't know my password. Yep, and there it goes. Okay. So it asked me for my password and username and password that time because I haven't configured SSH on that one. I have a separate video on SSH keys. Go check that out if you want to know how to set that up. So now if I refresh this, there it is. There's the code. Okay, so now I have it on GitLab. Now let's do it one more time for Bitbucket. Let's create a repository. So you see, it's the same process. Pretty much wherever I do this. Project name, testing remotes. Okay, testing remotes. Access level, I don't really care. Include a readme, no. Include git ignore, no. No. To create repository. Cool. And here's the URL. Okay, I'll copy it from down here. Okay. Then I do this again. Git remote add Bitbucket, and then the URL. Git remote add Bitbucket, and I do git push Bitbucket master. Probably gonna ask me for a username and password again. Yep. Which I'm pretty sure is gonna be the same thing. Nope. Let's try that again. Did it ask me git said? I think it's just asking me for the password this time. Yep. Okay. Cool. And see, now that pushed up to there. So you can tell, and that's why it's always important to read the messages. Don't assume that things are successful. So see, it says enumerating. It's writing the objects. Okay. It successfully pushed. Okay. So always read your terminal output. Don't assume that terminal just did things magically well. Okay. And see, there's the code. Okay. So see, one repository, and again I have 3 remotes, git remote, so it doesn't matter. You can have as many remotes as you want. Okay, it doesn't have to be called origin. Origin is just a convention. It can be called whatever you want. It can go wherever you want. It's just a way for you to be able to push and pull code from remote repositories. I can also pull. So if I make changes on those locations, from those locations, I can pull them from my local machine by just saying git pull, then the particular remote git pull, let's say GitHub master, would then pull any updates that may have been made to that code that I don't have on my local computer. Okay, I'm up to date, so that's fine. But that's all there is to remotes. It's nothing crazy. If I were doing a different branch, I'd just change master to whatever branch I'm pushing and pulling. And that's just how working with Git remotes works. Nothing magical. You're just saying, when I run this command, push the code to this URL or pull the code from that URL. My name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Make sure to join the Discord and Slack communities over there at devnursery.com. Have a great day and enjoy.